All right, so today we're setting sail into the world of luxury yachts.
Should be fun.
Uh,
Should be, I was really intrigued when you sent over the Sanlorenzo financials, covering a good few years too. So let's dive into these reports and see what they tell us about this luxury yacht builder.
it's amazing how much these financial reports can reveal about a company. It's like tracing their journey, their choices, their big wins, maybe even some of their struggles.
Yeah, it's like a treasure map, but instead of X marks the spot, it's like profits and losses and all that good stuff.
Exactly. And in San Lorenzo's case, we can use these reports to really understand their place in the luxury yacht world, where they came from, where they are now, and maybe even get a glimpse of where they're headed.
Okay, so before we get lost at sea with all these numbers, let's
Okay.
start with the basics. Who is San Lorenzo? Give us the rundown. Well, they build incredible yachts. But for the specifics, let's look.
Yeah, their 2019 report calls them a global operator, specializing in custom-made yachts, super yachts. They even make sport utility yachts,
Your exclusive customers, no doubt.
obviously. But here's the thing that caught my eye. They're claiming to be the top dog in the 30 to 40-meter yacht category.
18% market share, if I recall. That's a big deal.
18%. That's huge, right? I mean, what does that actually look like in the world of luxury yachts?
It's impressive no matter how you slice it. In a market like this, it speaks volumes. Imagine, for every 10 yachts of that size sold, nearly 2 are San Lorenzo. That tells you something about their reputation, the quality, and just the fact that they resonate with those high-end clients looking for a truly unique experience.
That's pretty wild considering where they started, building luxury yachts entirely out of wood back in 1958. Can you imagine what their financials must have looked like back then?
I can only imagine. Wood is a completely different ballgame, right?
Talk about a different world. And they eventually switched to composite materials in 1985, but then things really seemed to take off when Massimo Perotti came into the picture in 2005.
It's like their story reflects the whole yacht building industry, wouldn't you say? That move from wood to composite materials was massive. It opened up a whole new world of design possibilities. Larger yachts, more complex designs, the works.
And it sounds like Perotti came in right as things were changing. Like he knew exactly how to navigate those waters.
Absolutely. A strategic shift towards a global presence, diversifying their products, it all seems to have aligned.
Well, speaking of their portfolio, let's dive into those financials you mentioned. Their revenue growth between 2019 and 2022 is seriously impressive, going from 425.5 million to a whopping 740.7 million.
That's something else.
Plus, they went public in 2019, which must have been a huge moment for them.
Definitely a major milestone. It usually is. But that kind of revenue growth, it tells me there's a serious demand for these luxury vessels, even with all the global ups and downs we've seen.
So how do we even begin to make sense of their financial strength?
Well, to really dig into it, we've got to look at some key metrics, things like EBITDA, EBIT, and of course the big one, net profit.
Okay, break it down for me. What do those terms actually tell us about a company like San Lorenzo?
Think of them like financial tools. Each one gives us a slightly different perspective. EBITDA, it stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Basically, it shows us their core profitability.
Right, right.
Then you have EBIT, similar idea, but it factors in depreciation and amortization.
Okay.
And finally, there's net profit. This is the bottom line, the money they're actually taking home after everything's paid for. To really get the full picture, it would be ideal to compare these numbers to industry benchmarks or their competitors.
So, all in all, their financials seem to suggest they're sailing pretty smoothly. But what's fueling this success? What's the strategy behind all those impressive numbers?
Well, their reports actually give us some clues. This isn't just luck, it's a deliberate strategy. From 2018 onward, a clear pattern emerges.
All right, now we're talking. Break it down for us. What kind of strategic moves are we seeing?
One of the first things that jumps out is their acquisition of Blue Game. They're branching out, tapping into a different kind of customer.
So it's not just about building the biggest, most luxurious yachts anymore.
Exactly. This feels more like, say, younger, more adventurous clientele.
Yeah.
People who value performance and versatility as much as the luxury itself.
It's like they're diversifying their portfolio, not just in terms of yachts, but in terms of who they're building them for. Smart.
And there's something else. They're putting a lot of emphasis on research and development, especially in sustainable technologies. That partnership with Siemens Energy to develop fuel cell technology, that's a big deal.
Hold on, are they trying to make luxury yachts eco-friendly?
It appears so.
Wow. And that's not all. They're also ramping up their production capacity. Look at their new D2 area and the acquisitions back in 2021. They're setting themselves up for some serious growth.
Absolutely. They're thinking ahead, they've got to keep pace with the demand, and it seems like they're anticipating even more to come. Plus, they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. Entering the sport coupe segment with that SP line in 2022, that was a strategic move. And then there's the acquisition of Equinox.
Equinox, remind me.
It was a big step into the charter market. They're really covering their bases.
So they're making some really interesting moves to, capture different slices of the market. But what does this whole fuel cell thing actually mean for the future of luxury yachting? It seems like a pretty big deal trying to make these, opulent vessels more sustainable.
It's definitely a fascinating development. I think it speaks to a potential shift in how we even define luxury. You were talking earlier about being interested in the future of luxury, and this is a great example of how those values are evolving. Historically, luxury has always been linked to extravagance, so a certain level of consumption.
Right.
Yachts, especially, they use a ton of resources both to build and to operate.
Yeah, and you don't exactly see their target demographic roughing it.
Exactly. But I think there's a growing awareness, even among the ultra-wealthy, that their choices have an impact. Sanlorenzo getting into sustainable technologies, it suggests they're anticipating a future where luxury and sustainability have to go hand in hand.
So instead of bragging about the size of their yacht, owners will be talking about its minimal carbon footprint. That would be a pretty big change for the world of luxury.
It would. It really highlights that tension that exists now between how we used to think about luxury and this increasing demand for sustainability. It seems like Sanlorenzo's betting that being at the forefront of this change, being the innovator, will attract a new generation of yacht owners, people who are environmentally conscious.
It's a risk, for sure. But if they can pull it off, it could really pay off.
Yeah.
But even with all of this innovation and expansion, there have to be some bumps in the road, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the reports mentioned some potential risks.
They did. No business is perfect, San Lorenzo included. One risk factor they specifically called out is that they rely on a pretty small number of brand representatives.
Which makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they lose a key contact in a major market, it could really hurt their sales.
Absolutely. And their performance in these reports, it's been great. But we can't just ignore those bigger economic forces at play. Think back to the 2021 report. They mentioned some disruptions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Supply chains were a mess. Global markets were all over the place.
Yeah, the pandemic threw everyone for a loop. It makes you wonder, how inflation, potential supply chain issues, how are those things going to affect their bottom line? How will it change buyer behavior down the road?
It's a great question, and it's something to keep an eye on for sure. The luxury yacht market, it might seem insulated, but it's not immune to those global economic trends.
It's all connected. Okay, but circling back to their strategy for a moment. Are there any other decisions that stand out as particularly smart or potentially risky?
Well, that move into the charter market with the Equinox acquisition, that's an interesting one. I think it might show that they're recognizing a change in how people are thinking about luxury, maybe a shift away from owning something to more of an experience-based model. It could be a way to attract those who aren't ready to buy a yacht outright, but they still want a taste of that lifestyle.
That's a really good point. It makes you wonder, what will the luxury yacht of the future look like? Will it be all sleek and high-tech and powered by the sun and the wind?
It could be. Or maybe it'll be something we haven't even imagined yet. I think what San Lorenzo is doing with fuel cells and sustainable technologies just goes to show that even industries steeped in tradition, they can adapt, they can innovate. The real question is, will it be enough? Can they actually make luxury and sustainability work together? Can they reconcile those two things?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think those future financial reports are going to be very telling. One thing that really stuck with me from these reports was how much San Lorenzo relies on a small group of brand representatives. It makes you wonder, what happens if one of those relationships goes sour?
That's a valid point. It's definitely a potential weak spot. If their sales and distribution hinge on this small network of people, any kind of disruption to those relationships, and it could have a domino effect, could really impact their bottom line.
It's a good reminder that even in the world of luxury yachts, things can get a little rocky, so to speak. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. This company, San Lorenzo, they're building these incredibly luxurious yachts, but they're also having to adapt to this whole new way of thinking. It makes you wonder, can an industry that's so associated with, extravagance, can it really thrive in a world that's so focused on sustainability?
It's the big question, isn't it? And it's not just San Lorenzo grappling with this. It's the entire luxury sector. You have this inherent tension, right? This clash between luxury as we've always known it, extravagance, exclusivity, and then this growing understanding of our impact on the planet.
It's like they're trying to bridge that gap by investing in these sustainable technologies. But is it enough to just make these yachts more eco-friendly?
Yeah.
Will it really resonate with the people who are actually buying them?
That's the million-dollar question. I mean, anyone can develop fancy new technology, but changing how people think, how they behave, that's a different ballgame, especially in this market. Will someone who can afford a luxury yacht be willing to pay even more for a sustainable one?
And will they be willing to give up some of those features, those design elements that have always been associated with luxury yachts? It's a gamble, for sure.
Definitely a gamble.
Mhm.
But it also shows that they're adaptable, right? They're not stuck in the past, clinging to this outdated idea of what luxury means. They're looking ahead, trying to anticipate those future trends and get ahead of the curve. Will it work? Time will tell.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out down the line. But I'm glad we have these financial reports to give us a glimpse behind the curtain. We can track their progress, see what challenges they're facing, how their strategy is evolving.
Exactly. It's a fascinating look not just into San Lorenzo, but into the larger forces shaping the luxury market as a whole. It's a good reminder that even in a world as, I don't know, as exclusive as luxury yachts, things are changing. And adapting to those changes, it's not just about staying afloat, it's about thriving.
Well said. It's been a really interesting deep dive today, exploring the world of San Lorenzo and really the intersection of luxury, sustainability, and smart decision-making. So thanks for walking us through all of this and sharing your insights.
Happy to do it. I always enjoy getting into the nitty-gritty of these reports, uncovering the stories behind the numbers. It's fascinating.
And for everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you something to think about. The world of luxury is changing, and as we've seen with San Lorenzo, those who are willing to adapt and innovate, they just might find themselves riding the wave instead of being crushed by it.